जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। यमुना तीरा वनचारी। जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा। श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा। श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare जय राधा वृंदावन चंद्र राधा वृंदावन चंद्र राधे जय जगन्नाथ बलदेवा सुभद्रा जय सुदर्शना जय गौरांग निताय गौरांग निताय गौरांग निताय जय गौरांग निताय जय जय बालाजी भगवान बालाजी भगवान बालाजी भगवान जय बालाजी भगवान जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 श्रील प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय इस्कॉन बीबीटी फाउंडर आचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नामाचार्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की जय ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन धाम की जय मथुरा धाम की जय नवदीप मायापुर धाम की जय पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय द्वारकापुरी धाम की जय गंगा मैया की जय यमुना मैया की जय भक्ति देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय श्रील प्रभुपाद ट्रांसडेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की जय ट्रांसडेंटल हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय all glories to assembled devotees all glories to assembled devotees all glories to assembled devotees all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जायमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंगायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणां। हरे कृष्णा। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम Canto 6, Chapter 11, Text number 24. अहं हरे तव पादैकमूल दासानुदासो भवितास्मि भूयः। मनः स्मरेता सुपतेर्गुणांस्ते गृणीत्वा कर्म करोतु कायः। अहं हरेर्तव पादैकमूल दासानुदासो भवितास्मि भूयः। मनः स्मरेता सुपतेर्गुणांस्ते गृणीत्वा कर्म करोतु कायः। अहं हरे तव पादैकमूल दासानुदासो भवितास्मि भूयः। मनः स्मरेता सुपतेर्गुणांस्ते गृणीत्वा कर्म करोतु कायः। अहं हरेर्तव पादैकमूल दासानुदासो भवितास्मि भूयः। मनः स्मरेता सुपतेर्गुणांस्ते गृणीत्वा कर्म करोतु कायः। अहं हरे तव पादैकमूल दासानुदासो भवितास्मि भूयः। मनः स्मरेता सुपतेर्गुणांस्ते गृणीत्वा कर्म करोतु कायः। अहं हरेर्तव पादैकमूल दासानुदासो भवितास्मि भूयः। मनः स्मरेता सुपतेर्गुणांस्ते गृणीत्वा कर्म करोतु कायः। वैष्णवीस। Word by word translation and by purport by His Divine Grace ISKCON Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Aham, I, Hare, O my Lord, Tava, of your Lordship, Pada Ekamula, whose only shelter is the lotus feet, Das Anudasah, the servant of your servant, Bhavitasmi, shall I become, Bhuyah, again, Manah, my mind, Smareta, may remember, Asupate, of the Lord of my life, Gunan, the attributes, Te, of your Lordship, Grinita, may chant, Vak, my words, Karma, activities of service to you, Karotu, may perform, Kaya, my body. Translation. O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, will I again be able to be a servant of your eternal servants who find shelter only at your lotus feet? O Lord of my life, may I again become their servant so that my mind may always think of your transcendental attributes, my words always glorify those attributes, and my body always engage in the loving service of your Lordship? Purport. This verse gives the sum and substance of devotional life. One must first become a servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord, Dasanudas. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised, and he also showed by his own example, that a living entity should always desire to be a servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna, the maintainer of the gopis. Gopi bhartur pad kamalayor das das anudas. This means that one must accept a spiritual master who comes in the disciplic succession and is a servant of the Lord. Under his direction, one must then engage one's three properties, namely his body, mind, and words. The body should be engaged in physical activity under the order of the master. The mind should think of the Krishna incessantly, and one's words should be engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord. If one is thus engaged in the loving service of the Lord, one's life is successful. Om Agyantimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavancha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sya Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratvishe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Sri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhasya Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Nama Hare Nama Eva Kevalam Kalau Nastaiva Gatiranyata. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Aham Hare Tava Padaika Mula Dasanudaso Bhavitasmi Bhuyah Manah Smaretasu Pater Gunamste Granitava Karma Karotu Kaya. O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, Will I again be able to be a servant of your eternal servants, who find shelter only at your lotus feet? O Lord of my life, may I again become their servant, so that my mind may always think of your transcendental attributes, my words always glorify those attributes, and my body always engage in the loving service of your Lordship. Hare Krishna. And I'm grateful to all of you for encouraging me and making me speak on this exalted, beautiful verse, which I'm not qualified to speak on, to understand the essence of devotional service, to be the servant of the servant of the servant. But I think this Lord Krishna's and Acharya's plan, by speaking, at least I'll be able to remember something. So thank you, and I take permission of all the exalted Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis who have assembled here. I'll try to repeat whatever I could remember. So we are speaking about this important shloka. The background is Lord Indra is fighting with Vritasur, who is a demon. Lord Indra has thrown his mighty club at Vritasur, and Vritasur has easily caught it. And with that club, he hit the carrier of Indra, Airavat. And the blow was so hard, and we can understand the strength of Airavat. Airavat fell back 14 yards, along with Indra on his back, and was injured. Indra was morose. With his hand, which contains nectar, he revived Airavat. And both of them stood up silently, at a loss what to speak, what to do. And now we see the compassion and the wonderful behavior of Vritasur. Vritasur first got angry because Indra was responsible for killing Vishwarup, his guru, as well as the brother of Vritasur. So he chastised him. But after chastisement, he encouraged and inspired Indra to throw that thunderbolt at him. He said that I know your club was useless, but don't doubt that thunderbolt which you have is empowered by Dadichi Muni's bones and is blessed by Lord Vishnu. So it won't be as useless as the club. Throw it at me. I'll be happy to die. I'll be happy to be killed by you. And I want to go back to Godhead. I want to serve the Lord. And then in a series of verses, he instructs Indra, and through these verses, he also instructs us how a sadhaka should be bereft of material desires. He should not hanker for material opulences. He should be always a servant of the servant. And in earlier verse, he defines who is the servant. Very, very instructive for us. A servant is one who is always surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always thinks about the Lord or thinks about the lotus feet of the Lord. And the Lord is very pleased by such a personality, and he accepts him as his most confidential associate and a servant. That's a definition of the servant from Vritasur's point of view. And now what is Vritasur saying in this verse? That is explained by Srila Prabhupada here in detail. Vritasur wants to be a Dasanudas, the servant of such servants who are fully surrendered to the Lord and always are thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord. So, the word is Padaika Mula, whose only shelter is the lotus feet. And another important word, Asupate, of the Lord of my life. So Srila Prabhupada in the purport tells us that the essence or sum and substance of devotional life is this particular verse. Because it tells us what is the ultimate goal of life for a sadhaka, so that he can take shelter of the servants and please the Lord. And that is the Vaishnava Siddhant, Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhant. In Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada talks about the Swarup or the constitutional nature of a living entity. He quotes a dialogue between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sanatana Goswami. Sanatana Goswami approaches Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and asks him, Ke ami, ke amai, jare tapatrai. Who am I? Why are these miseries affecting me, disturbing me? Iha nahi jani ke mana hita hai. I don't know what is my benefit. Why have I taken a human body? And then Mahaprabhu explains him. Jivera swarupo hai Krishnera nityadas. Krishnera tatastha shakti bheda bheda prakash. So Mahaprabhu gives the sambandha gyan. And Sanatana Goswami is our sambandha acharya. Yes, sambandha gyan is, yes, we are the servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, Mamai vanshe jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Manashashtindriyani prakritistani karshati. But we see that in spiritual life, there are always higher and higher and higher levels. Example, guhya, guhyatar, guhyatam. Guhya is the knowledge of the spirit soul. Guhyatar is the knowledge about Paramatma. And Guhyatam is the knowledge about Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Sambandh is the knowledge which tells us that we are servants. Now, whose servants are explained at a higher level in Srimad Bhagavatam and beautifully so in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Uttama, Uttamatar and Uttamottam. Servant, servant of the servant, and servant of the servant of the servant, or dasanu das, trying to be a servant of the servant of the servant. There's the understanding. The level goes on increasing, the consciousness goes on increasing, becomes deeper and deeper. You are not the servant of Krishna. That's what Sanatana Goswami also tells us. That those who believe they are the servants of Krishna are Kanishta Adhikari. They don't understand the importance of Vaishnavas, the devotees. They come to a temple, they feel that they have a direct connection with the Lord, they pray, they don't associate with the devotees and go back. So the higher level is Madhyama. He differentiates. I have to serve certain living entities. I don't have to serve certain living entities. So he differentiates. Bhakta, abhakt. He stays away from abhaktas. Slightly higher level. In the highest level, Uttamadhikari. He sees everyone as part and parcel of the Lord. He says, as I am patit, I am lower than all of them. I want to serve all these wonderful living entities. Stavara jangama dekhi na dekhi tara murti. Sarvatra hai ishtadeva spurti. So he is inclined to serve each and every one. And this is the definition given to us by Lord Himself when He comes in the role of a devotee, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Sambandha Gyan talks about the constitutional position. How to raise that position is given to us in Abhideya. You try to serve Vaishnavas, please them. And when you go on doing that, you come to a higher stage, Prayojan. And Prabhupada is telling us in this purport very important message. He says, that means one must accept a spiritual master who comes in the disciplic succession and is a servant of the Lord. How is the spiritual master the servant of the Lord? Because it's connected to parampara. And there's a very important message Srila Prabhupada is giving us. That means we should accept a bona fide spiritual master who comes in parampara. And acharyas are also very, very important. Param Guru Srila Prabhupada. So while serving our spiritual master, we should also acknowledge and serve our Param Guru Srila Prabhupada. So when Guru is pleased, Param Guru is pleased, Acharyas are pleased. And when Acharyas are pleased, Krishna is pleased. So this is Vaishnav Siddhant. We have to please Krishna through the medium of Vaishnavas. A series of layers of Vaishnavas or layer of Acharyas. And Srila Prabhupada quotes Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's example and his consciousness of how he considers himself a servant of the servant. And this is beautifully illustrated when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is dancing and singing in front of the Jagannath Rath car. There are 7 parties. Mahaprabhu has arranged parties doing Sankirtan. The Rath, Pandu Vijay is over. The Rath has, all the 3 cars have come on the road. Everything is lined up. The Raths are moving. And Mahaprabhu is dancing. But before he dances, he recites 4 important verses. 3 of these verses glorify the Lord. One is from Vishnu Purana. Namo Brahmana Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagaditaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. The second verse is from Mukunda Mala, where he describes Krishna's beauty as well as Krishna's wonderful qualities. Jayati Jayati Devo Devaki Nandana Asau Jayati Jayati Krishno Vrishni Vamsha Pradeepaha जयति जयति मेघ श्यामः कमलांगो, जयति जयति पृथ्वी भार नाशो मुकुंदः. This is Mukunda Mala. So it glorifies. And the third verse is from 10th canto, 19th chapter. Jayati Jana Nivaso Devaki Nandan Devaki Putra Vado, where he says that Krishna is the shelter of all the living entities. And after glorifying Krishna, he establishes his own constitutional position. All of you must be familiar with that particular verse. Naham vipro na cha narpatir na vaishyo na shudro, naham varni na cha grahpatir na vanasto yatirva, kintu prodnya nikila purnananda purnamrtabher, gopi bhartur pad kamalayor das 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 anudas. During the discussions with Ramanand Rai on the banks of river Godavari at Kovur, even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejected. It is Bahya. The Varnashram is Bahya. Aage kah yaar. Or the highest perfection of human life, not Varnashram. So this he again repeats here. I am not a Brahmana, not a Kshatriya, Vaishya or Shudra. Neither am I a Brahmachari, a Grahastha, Vanaprastha or Sannyasi. Who am I? I am the servant of the servant of the servant, or gopis who are maintained by Lord Krishna, who is full of bliss, Purna Amrita Purna Amritabher. So he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is giving shelter to the gopis, and I am the servant of the gopis. This is the mood illustrated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He dances in that mood, but ultimately the Supreme. He is a Radha Bhav within him. So at certain stage, after performing Sankirtan for some time, the Radha Bhav definitely comes up. And then he recites one particular verse. Sa Komaram Harati Sa Eva Vaso. It's like an ordinary love song. But it's the highest ecstasy of Lord Mahaprabhu. No one else except Swarup Damodar could understand the meaning of that particular verse. And later on, Rupa Goswami Pad understands that meaning of that particular verse. The meaning of that particular verse is the same personality who attracted me in my youth is my master again. These are same moonlight nights. The Malti flowers, beautiful breeze is blowing. But I am not happy within. I want to go to the banks of Reva and associate with my Lord. This is the mood of Radharani when she sees Krishna at Kurukshetra. Is Aishwarya opulence bhav. But she is not attracted by that mood. She wants Vrindavan mood. Gundicha. And Rupa Goswami Pad explains to us what is the meaning of Rath Yatra. And in the same beautiful pastime, there is another instruction, another lesson for us. Mahaprabhu does show us by his own example, but also side by side by giving another example of his disciple, of his associate, how one can become dear to Mahaprabhu and then in turn become dear to Krishna. And whose example he is illustrating? Prataprudra Maharaj. Initially, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does not want to see Prataprudra Maharaj because he is a king. Nityanand Prabhu, Sarvam Bhattacharya, and especially Ramanand Rai, they glorify Prataprudra Maharaj. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is firm. And then these associates of Mahaprabhu devise a plan. The series of plans, we'll talk about the only last plan which is there in this Rath Yatra pastime. In the Rath Yatra, Prataprudra Maharaj comes and sweeps the road before the cart. He becomes a sweeper, a manual servant. This manual service of Prataprudra Maharaj appeals to Lord Chaitanya. Internally he is pleased, but externally he does not show that way because he wants to set an example. And then the dancing is going on. And while dancing, Mahaprabhu shows his mystic opulences. There is a loving exchange between Jagannath, who is in the mood of Krishna, and Mahaprabhu, who is in the mood of Radharani. Rath stops when Jagannath cannot see Mahaprabhu, when Mahaprabhu is at the back. Then Mahaprabhu comes in the front, sings, Rath starts. This sort of series of loving exchanges go on. And there we are told by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, there is a beauty of the variegatyness of Lord's pastimes. Lord is same. The dancer and the seer are one and the same. But by performing such pastimes, we understand the variegatedness of Lord, his pastimes. The second mystery is Mahaprabhu is dancing simultaneously in 7 parties. Each member of the party feels that Mahaprabhu is in only my party. But he is dancing in all 7 parties. And very few confidential associates of Mahaprabhu can see 7 Mahaprabhus dancing 7 parties. And one of them is Prataprudra Maharaj. So that means Mahaprabhu has invariably given his mercy to Prataprudra Maharaj. Kashi Mishra, Sarvam Bhattacharya acknowledge that. They say, you are very, very fortunate. And then Mahaprabhu is dancing. And suddenly while dancing, he falls down in front of Prataprudra Maharaj. Prataprudra Maharaj being very, he doesn't know what to do, he just lifts Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu comes in external consciousness. And he's angry. Oh, I've been touched by this king. Shame on me. Prataprudra Maharaj doesn't understand. What is this? But then he's pacified again by Kashi Mishra and Sarvam Bhattacharya. He said, Mahaprabhu is sending a message to all his associates how to deal with non-devotees. And after ecstatic kirtan, dancing for such a very long time, the Rath comes to Balagandi. And there's a garden there. Mahaprabhu is tired. And the Jagannath cart and Subhadra and Baldev cart are being offered bhogas by so many of the devotees. So Mahaprabhu is resting in the garden. So Prataprudra Maharaj is advised, now change into a Vaishnava dress. Come and massage the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu. Prataprudra does so. He comes into the garden. What does he do first? He takes the blessings of all the Vaishnavas assembled there and starts massaging the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu, simultaneously singing Gopi Geet, Jayati Te Dikam. And Mahaprabhu is totally in internal consciousness. He enjoys, he is very pleased. He says, Bala Bala, go on speaking, go on reciting, Bala Bala, go on reciting, more and more and more. And Prataprudra Maharaj goes on reciting. He comes to 9th verse. Tava kathamrutam tapta jivanam kavi bhiriditam kalmashapaham Shravana mangalam Srimadatam bhuvi granantiye buridajana. So the gopis glorify Krishna when Krishna has left them. Tava kathamrutam. Your glory is just pastimes are like amruta for those people who are burning in this material world. Tapta jivanam. They are having a miserable life, but it's soothing. Your kathamrutas are soothing. And so are the wonderful devotees who go on reciting these kathas. They are auspicious, beautiful. And as soon as Mahaprabhu hears them say, Bhurida, Bhurida, munificent, munificent. Go on reciting. And what does he do? He gets up and embraces Prataprudra Maharaj. The Lord is embracing Prataprudra Maharaj because he is extremely pleased. So far he has not shown that. He has confused Prataprudra Maharaj. Internally he is pleased, externally he is displeased. But here now he is totally pleased. He is embracing. In asking him, who are you? Lord is all knowledgeable. But in performing a pastime, he acts like an ordinary devotee. So who are you? And what is the answer of Prataprudra Maharaj? Prataprudra Maharaj is the epitome, like Vritasur here, who is saying, I am the Das, would like to be a Dasanu Das. Similarly, in Chaitanya Charitamrut, there are so many examples. In Srimad Bhagavatam, so many examples who are epitomes of this Dasanu Das. Prabhupada quotes Prahlad Maharaj. When Lord Narsimha Bhagavan wanted to give benediction to Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj said, no, I don't want any material benediction. Let me serve your servant, Narad Muni. By serving Narad Muni, I'll be able to please you. Dhruva Maharaj. When Dhruva Maharaj was angry with Yakshas because his brother was killed by them, he fought with them. Swayambhu Manu came and told him, be patient. Don't go to the extreme. Stop fighting. Dhruva agreed. Kuvera, the leader of Yakshas, was happy. He came and told Dhruva, ask for a benediction. And what did Dhruva say? Let me be servant of the Vaishnavas. In Mahaprakash Leela, we see Sridhar Kolvecha, Haridas Thakur, Srivas Pandit. All are asking, well, let us be the servant of the servant. Vritasur here. and Chaitanya Charitamrita Prataparudraja Maharaj. And what does he say? Raja kahe, Ami tomara dasanu das, Bhrutyera Bhrutya, Ehi mora as. I want to be the servant of your servants. So please accept me as a servant of your devotees. So this is the mood given to us by Srila Prabhupada also. As Mahaprabhu illustrated by his own example. He taught to us by examples of Prataparudraja Maharaj, his own associates. In Srimad Bhagavatam, we see such examples. So Srila Prabhupada also exemplified this principle of dasanudas. He served his disciples initially. He peace. He cooked for them. He served them. So this is the mood of a Vaishnava. And then Prabhupada tells us one important message here. So how do we serve? The body should be engaged in physical activity under the order of Master. The mind should think of Krishna incessantly, and one's words should be engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord. Brahma also understood this. Brahma wanted to be smart and try to understand Krishna on his own mental concoction. And then he realized, and that's why in one of the prayers, Jnane prayasam udapase namanta eva. Stane stitaha sutibir tan manu tan vak manobhir. In that purport, the disciples of Srila Prabhupada explain. They quote Sanatana Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. The pure devotee, he's so empowered and Krishna is so pleased, he is conquered by the pure devotees, that a pure devotee can touch the lotus feet of the Lord by his hands. He can glorify Krishna through his mouth. And he can always meditate in his mind and heart about Krishna's beauty, Krishna's sweetness, Krishna's pastimes. That's what Sanatana Goswami is telling us. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that yes, you engage the body by paying obeisances to the Vaishnava, servants of the Lord first. That's how the body is engaged. Glorify the speakers who talk about Bhagavatam, Krishna's pastimes. And appreciate Krishna's pastimes, loudly talk to each other about Krishna's pastimes. And get pleasure in the mind while discussing these pastimes. So this is what Prabhupada is telling us, that we should be totally engaged in serving, hearing, and meditating. Shravan, Kirtan, and Smaran. The three important aspects of Navagita Bhakti. And this is the consciousness in which Vritasur wants to go back to Godhead. He mentions that yes, this is what Lord Sankarshan, when he was Chitraketu had taken shelter of Sankarshan. But there, for a short time, Chitraketu forgot to glorify Shiva, the associate of Lord. And he was cursed, and he had to accept the body of Vritasur. A slight, not intentional, a partly glorification, as Prabhupada says. He was amazed at the renunciation of Shiva. But Parvati misunderstood. So even the devotees can be misunderstood. So they have to be extremely careful. So we see here Vritasur is very extremely careful. He is following all the religious principles. When Indra is unharmed, he does not attack Indra. He allows him to get up. Such a Vaishnava etiquette. He has learned from his past. That's experience. Learning from the past. Trying to become better and better and better. And that's what Bhakti is telling us. It's unending path. Higher and higher levels. Uttama, Uttamam, Uttamotar, Uttamam. Higher and goes on. Can be refined and refined and refined. There's no stop. Unending. This is what Bhagavatam is telling us. This is what Srila Prabhupada, through his beautiful purports, are instructing us. There's an unending journey. Journey never stops. It goes on. And we see this in the life of Vritasur. And then Vritasur also talks about the love. Also in the further prayers, he talks about how a wife is hankering for the husband. Highest level of Madhurya Prem. And we are fortunate that Mahaprabhu has given us a glimpse of this Madhurya Prem through his pastimes. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. What does he teach us while writing Chaitanya Charitamrita? At the end of each chapter, whose blessings, whose shelter he is taking? Rupa Raghunatha Pade Yara As. Chaitanya Charitamrita Kahi Krishna Das. At each and every chapter, he is taking the shelter of Rupa and Raghunath. And whose shelter Raghunath is taking? Swarup Damodar. So our whole parampara is full of this servant of the servant of the servant. So very, very fortunate that we are connected to such parampara, which is following here in this temple also. So the great exalted Vaishnavas are sitting here. So let us all try to serve such exalted Vaishnavas and please them so we can advance in our spiritual life. Thank you. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any comments? Any realizations or any questions? Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Very, very nice class, Prabhuji. So the comment is not there, one question was there. Ki Pratapadra Maharaj, he was trying his best to get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But he was being neglected by the Lord externally. But still he continued. So in our life also, how we should do that? To achieve the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya.
In the purport, in one of this purport section, Prabhupada says, somehow or the other, you should come under the notice of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very, very merciful. So somehow or the other, with determination, as Pratapada Maharaj, he was neglected, but he didn't give up his determination. He tried and tried and tried. And that's within our hands, endeavor, and the mercy will come. Prabhupada mentioned that. It go somehow or the other, just come under the notice of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and will get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this example. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad, you have something?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, in a community of devotees, in trying to be a servant of the servant of the servant, when we try to see the superior's desire or different devotees' desire, sometimes there is a difference of how they feel pleased. If it is about just pleasing one person, it's somewhat easier from, at least if the desire is there to please, we can try to please that person. When multiple people have to be pleased, and there is difference of how they will be pleased. So how we live by this mood and keep them happy.
There is an English prayer. You can't please all the people all the time. You can please some people sometime. You can. Agreed. What happens? Why people are displeased? Not because of our not doing their work, because maybe our external talk or the behavior. What is displeasing is our behavior and our talk. If you can politely explain to them that yes, I am doing this under the guidance of this my authority, is my authority, so please forgive me. And if you explain this in a polite way, I don't think they will be displeased. Right? But if we tell roughly or we neglect and we breach the etiquettes and all, then yes, there will be a feeling of displeasure. So we have to be very particular about Vaishnava etiquettes. Thank you. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, समवेत भक्तवृंद की जय.